Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Advancio Talk. Today, our talk is called Human versus Robots, Thrive Using Both. My name is Jay Ibarra, and I'll be your host once again during this talk. So before I go around the room and introduce you to our speakers today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Advancio. So Advancio, it's a global tech solutions company based in Los Angeles, California, powered by uniquely talented individuals with a passion for problem solving and technology. And now, without further ado, I'd like to go around the room and introduce you to all of our speakers. And one side, we have Josie Lopez. She's Advancio's co-founder, and she's been in Advancio for over 10 years, helping businesses thrive, providing the right tech talent and solutions through digital transformation. How are you doing, Josie? And thank you for joining today.
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me, Jay. Excited to be here with you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Josie. And once again, we have Karim Jernite, who's also co-founder at Advancio, and he specializes in .NET developer staff augmentation, helping businesses, again, thrive through digital transformation. How are you doing, Karim? We're happy to have you.
Good, Jay. It's good to be back.
Excellent. Sounds good. And also, we have a special guest today. His name is Armando Salazar. He is the delivery manager for BPO at Advancio, and he's currently managing a team of data entry professionals exclusively working for the insurance industry. How are you doing, Armando? Happy to have you.
Hi, Jay. Great. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're happy to have you, man. And without further ado, I'd like to go into topic today. We have prepared some questions for you guys. And well, first of all, I'd like to pick first on Armando. You'll be the first one on the podium today. So I'm going to have the questions first for you, man. And this first question, I'm sure that's kind of the one that everybody has, is what is BPO? Can you tell us what BPO is?
Sure. So BPO, it's a practice focused on subcontracting third-party services to execute and improve supplementary business features and services to the customer. Business process outsourcing can be implemented in different ways based on your business model, but can also be adapted to your needs at specific times. BPO service include payroll, human resources, accounting, data entry, and customer call center relations, to mention a few. BPO service can be divided into back office outsourcing and front office outsourcing. Back office outsourcing service can include quality assurance, data entry, data management, accounting support, payment processing, and surveys. And front office outsourcing services can include fax, email, phone conversations, and other forms of direct communication with customers. So BPO helps not only on workforce stability, but also in your decision-making process.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Armando. Another question, this is more regarding with the title, which is human versus robots. What's the process that a human should be doing?
First of all, most businesses that seek business process outsourcing services are looking to expand on their current products and service, but do not have the time or resources to do so. However, BPO services can offer organizations the opportunity to free up time to focus on their core offerings and the strategic activities by automating internal processes and using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation intelligence. Therefore, employees can start proactively focusing on strategic and tactical processes that can help to improve operation and customer service instead of exhausting repetitive and highly time-consuming tasks.
Perfect, Armando. And following up a little bit on what you said about back office, what are the trends in back office through BPO right now?
Digital technologies have created new opportunities for businesses. Traditional businesses process and operation outsourcing models are being redefined through smarter workflows using automation, artificial intelligence, the cloud, and other emerging technologies. To stay relevant and grow, companies must keep searching towards smarter and more competitive process that considers customers, employees, suppliers, and business partners alike, and the behavior of global markets. Organizations are looking to digitally empower critical business processes through resilience and scalability. According to Gartner, by 2022, 90% of organizations globally will have adopted robotic process automation. RPA is a technology application that automates business processes. This includes software configuration to manage, interpret, and analyze data to offer automatic responses and offload repetitive tasks. This can be seen as an opportunity to integrate state-of-the-art technologies, especially for demand seasons or special projects.
Awesome. Thanks, Armando, for sharing your expertise. We'll get back to you later throughout the call. And now I'd like to pick on Josie. I have prepared a couple of questions for you. I hope you're ready.
I hope I can answer them.
Excellent.
I
Well,
feel like
the
I'm in the
first
hot
one,
seat.
yeah, the first question I have, and adding that you're in the IT staffing solutions. So the first question is, what are the talent trends in BPO right now?
Yeah, so I'm really into humans and really into what they do and what they don't do and why they do the things that they do. And talent scarcity is a huge issue in most organizations. It's a tremendous thing that has been affecting all companies at a global level. Why? Because labor markets are imperfect. They're made up of individuals and humans and people, and we think and we see, and that changes the way that we look. So predicting what they're going to do is extremely difficult. So, there's also the wages and increased labor regulations. What does that do to the companies? What does that do to the humans? So increased inflation isn't going to be helping us at all this upcoming year. We're going to have to be making some very important human decisions. We have the brain drain. So we've got all these issues going on. And then on top of that, you have the great resignation, where individuals during the pandemic and even after are asking themselves, wait a minute, do I want to do this job? Do I want to keep on entering 1,000 emails a day? I was born to do more, right? So then you start seeing like the hugest increase in new businesses come in, right? So how does that affect companies? How does that affect them being able to still deliver really good customer service to their customers, while all of these things that are happening in the labor market, right? So these are the trends that are happening that are possibly extremely challenging for companies, and that we're going to have to resolve one way or another.
Right, it makes sense. And well, regarding to what you just explained to us, can you explain to us how can we retain talent and reposition them once a robot is implemented in the strategy?
So that's one of the hugest misconceptions about robots, that they're going to come and they're going to replace humans. We don't have the quantum computing power required for robots to replace humans yet. Eventually, through a lot of additional work and technological advances, we will have extremely powerful quantum computing power, and we'll be able to replicate what humans do in a robot. But we're a couple years off from that. So robots right now are really meant to make the life of humans easier. So if you're already processing 1,000 emails a day and extremely repetitive, the robot will come and support you with the low complexity emails or the low complexity task. That way the brain is not being utilized to do those type of tasks. They can really focus on the more difficult or the exceptions. So it's really going to require us to retrain the individual doing the work to not only do the easy work anymore, because really they're humans and they're really cool, so they can be doing something a lot more challenging, and really kind of deal with the exceptions and work with the robot and fix the exceptions that come out from that robotic process automation. So yeah, big misconceptions that the robots are going to take over and replace humans. No, we're going to work in perfect synergy, and they're going to take the really easy work that we do not want to do, because we really want to be flexing our brain muscles and doing something that's challenging and exciting to us, and allow us to deal with those exceptions.
Right, we get it. This is not the Terminator. The robots are not going to take over here.
No,
Yeah.
it's really it's perfect synergy. The way I see it, in a perfect world, we're going to have all of these challenges as company owners, and we're going to be able to meet them through automation. And our humans are going to be happier because they're going to be doing work that's meaningful and that they really love to do.
Right, love that. Love that. That's great. Thanks for sharing, Josie. Anything else you'd like to add before I move on to Karim?
No, not at all. I will maybe piggyback on some of the things that they're mentioning. Like Armando mentioned some really great things, and I didn't know if I could interject, so I kind of just stayed quiet. So if you don't mind, and asking permission from the other individuals, if I can chime in, that would be
Go
great.
ahead. Go ahead. You guys are here. You're the experts here. So if you guys have something to add, just jump in and skip me if you guys like. Now, Karim, going back to you, man. We also have some questions prepared for you. We'll go here with the first one. Is when or where can a robot come in your strategy? Can you explain us a little bit about that?
I think most businesses today have thought one way or another about implementing some kind of automation. And the robot comes into strategy usually when there's a combination of factors that affect your resources. When you're unable to find the talent necessary or retain the talent necessary, or you to expand the talent needed to perform certain service. The biggest thing that happened during the pandemic is that delivery of services has switched from what I call in-house or present services, where you actually went to a hotel and you went to a restaurant. And a lot of that basically has changed, where people now are redirecting their money to non-presential services, where now they're paying for extra streaming, or they're ordering more stuff online. And all those new trend of spending has obviously caused more need for back office services. You need more people to process those orders. You need more people to process those claims. You need more people to, and there's not enough people in the market to fill all that. And that's when business owners need to start thinking about, all right, what are the processes that we have in place that are very repetitive, mundane, boring? You can start with those. And those are the first ones that business owners usually tend to think, okay, you know what, it's time to automate step A or step B in our whole process.
Right, perfect. And now that you mentioned that, how can we make a smooth transition into BPO to RPA?
Sorry, just to add to that point,
Okay.
users have also become more demanding. The line between office hours and non-office hours is completely blurred. So they want to be able to make a payment at 2 o'clock in the morning, or, they don't care if it's Saturday at 7 a.m. They want to be able to talk to people immediately. So I think that that's another thing that's really changed during the pandemic, that blurring of lines of hey, in office, there's office hours. Really, there really isn't anymore. Now they want it all the time, and now they're demanding that service at all odd hours, and that's really difficult to do because people want to be off, right? They want to be off Saturday and Sunday and have some time with their family.
Right, it makes sense. Yeah, and it has happened to all of us that we always remember that we have to make a payment late at night, and then we have to wait till the next day, and probably the payment goes due, and it gets crazier. So yeah, I get that part. It's
So
pretty...
to that point, that's another kind of low-hanging fruit. So obviously the easier task, that's maybe the first line that maybe they want to start with automation. Maybe services that they're not able to render 24 hours, so being able to make a payment, is that something that they want to automate or kind of make it more digitally friendly? That way their users can get the best of both worlds, where you can have your people sleeping and have your robot kind of working those payments at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right, right. Yeah, and following up on the questions, going back to you, thanks, Josie, again, for adding that up into the conversation. Going back to you, Karim, if you can answer us that question, how can we make a smooth transition from human work BPO to RPA?
That's a good question. So basically, how do we move from business process outsourcing to robotic processing automation? I think RPA is part of BPO. So when is it time to move from traditional BPO, where actually you depended 100% on humans to perform certain tasks, to being assisted by a robot? And it really, to ensure a smooth transition to introducing the robots into our life, it really has to start with the small, easy tasks. And it has to be done on a gradual way. You can't just take the whole pie and automate. You have to start with a small chunk at a time. And humans are the best at setting processes. Robots don't set processes. So for that transition to be successful, humans have to go and elaborate a very, very well-documented process of the whole business operations that can be automated. And then you start chopping at it one section at a time of that whole big process. And then you leverage those very same people that understand how to do it manually, that understand the business side, to perfect that section of the automation that was done before you move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. Now, there is really two types of RPAs. Well, kind of three, but so there is but the two categories are either attended RPAs or unattended RPAs. So obviously the first transition should be with the attended RPAs. The difference is the attended RPA is a robot that you actually watching doing the work. So there's a human, instead of, I'm just gonna get rid of Karim and replace him with Karim Prime, which is a robot. That's not how it works. Karim has to watch Karim Prime for a long period of time, making sure that the whole process of automation is perfect. And while that attended robot gets stuck or handles or meets exceptions or errors, the operator can interject and help the robot move forward. When do we move to the unattended? When the exceptions are very, very low. When that RPA is we're sure that the RPA is not breaking a lot, and that those exceptions can be handled on a queue where somebody doesn't need to intervene right there and then fix it. It could be queued up for another human being to actually unlock that dreadlock that gets created by that error that RPA created. So just understanding the limitations. So basically documenting the process, understanding the limitation, and basically just monitoring and repeating. That's how you do a smooth transition into the RPA. Well, not transition, but that's how you do a smooth introduction of RPA into your BPO process.
Right, and it kind of goes back to what Josie mentioned to us, that even though we're going to start automating stuff or processes and everything, there's always going to be a human behind helping the robot. So it's not just going to be the robot taking over your processes, your operations. There's always a human going to be behind the processes as well, right?
Absolutely. You always want your talent to focus on things that computers can't resolve. That's basically extreme analysis, intuition, things that robots can't do yet. And humans are very good at, right? So that's what you want your people to do. That way you can give them more. It's not about replacing the people. It's about giving them more bandwidth to do more, to be giving people more hands. Not necessarily more brains, but mainly more hands. And of course, the brains come in. We'll talk a little bit about we could talk about machine learning and predictive analytics and all that. But but it's mainly more hands. When we just say RPA as is, it's really just hands.
Yeah, I like to kind of think of robots as humans too. And I like to say that we start building a not so smart human. So just like when you hire somebody in the beginning, they're not fully trained, and they really, they have a learning curve to learn about you and your company and what they need to get done. Robots are pretty much the same. You start building the robots and they're a little dumb in the beginning and they have a little bit of a learning curve, and you want to teach them, or you want to have them do the easiest work first. But they've got some AI, they've got some intent, they've got some predictability, where if you built it into the robot, they'll get smarter and smarter over time. So start with, for simplicity, you always want to start with a robot that's not that smart, that doesn't have 1,000 activities or 1,000 intents built in, and then deliver that. That way it's agile and you're delivering something continuously all the time, instead of trying to build the ultimate robot and then not start using it until it's like really, really smart. So start with a dumb robot and then train it and develop it into a really smart robot that's really robust and can take on a lot of processes from low skill to very high skill and complex.
Right, it makes sense. Anything else to add here, Karim, to this topic?
No, I think it's pretty much covered. It's a smooth transition into RPA in particular. RPA mainly deals with back office stuff. It's basically action. Then there's also the front office, which is handled by AI or conversational AI. It's where a robot understands what the customer is asking for. But I think at the end of the day, the goal is the same. The goal is to provide superior customer service to your clients, and to do that, you need to be able to give them what they want on demand when they want it.
Right, perfect. Yeah, and I have one last question for you, Karim. And as you mentioned that everything's changing, this year with the pandemic and everything. So I wanted to ask you, what are the tech trends in 2022 regarding automation?
It's fine. Just talked a little bit about front office and back office. I think what we're really seeing is that there is a very, very strong push from the tech community to basically make virtual agents that are smart and that are capable. What I mean by that is we're trying to not just do an RPA, but we're also trying to do a conversational AI. The hottest trend right now is a combination of both. It's basically linking the ability to understand what the user is asking for, predict what the intent is, and then execute an action. So that first part is basically, it's called conversational AI. It's basically being able to talk. And the second part is RPA, robotic process automation, where actually being able to do. The cool thing, the other trend is you can bring machine learning into the picture. So remember I talked earlier about attended and unattended, but either way, there are exceptions that need to be handled. Well, the conversational AI is the same way. There is exception in the intent that need to be handled, and the computer needs to be told, no, this is not what J meant. He didn't mean A, he meant B. And when you do that, you add machine learning to that. So now you have a computer that learns the right answers as it goes. And now it's becoming better at predicting what you mean. And that's the power of combining machine learning, AI, RPA. And that's where the industry is going. And there's a lot more businesses that are very open to combining that stuff, because number one, it gives great customer service. So you're able to handle operations in all kind of hours, in holidays, nights, weekends. It allows your people to do what they really want to do, which promotes a healthier company culture, happier employees, and of course, it's a cool tech. Everybody wants to be in the forefront, and everybody wants to. With the pandemic, that caught pretty much most of the industries off guard. It gives the businesses a peace of mind knowing that they're in the right track of digital transformation, and they got the customer safe and secured, knowing full well that yes, the exceptions are there that humans can handle, but when there is no exception, there's a great reduction in data entry errors, and that's a huge thing to a lot of businesses, especially in the finance industry. We're talking with about banking or insurance or healthcare. I mean, those are a data entry error could cost a lot. So those are all these trends are really very high tech on the front end, but on the back end, they really help businesses just step into the 22nd century.
Right. I came across another question. That now that you're mentioning about the industries, so can you explain to us what are the main industries that are basically getting BPO and turning it into RPA?
Pretty much a lot of industries. So automation can be done 2 different ways. There is the traditional point and click. So you need somebody to, well, if you go back, there's the traditional just click and type, right? The old DOS screens, black and white, right? So there's RPAs that automate that, just typing part of it. There is the point and click, which is the new UI UX where people can now click the old Windows when it start 93, 95, those kind of programs. And then the modern trend, and I'm including in that point and click, I'm actually including web actions as well through the browsers. And then there is the modern automation, which is mainly through API endpoints and 100% automated. So all those are automations that different ways of automating. And the industries that tend to take advantage depends on what there are. So the reason why I mentioned banking and finance, because traditionally they have a lot of legacy systems. They haven't moved to the new programs that use APIs and RESTs and all that. So they tend to need a lot of RPA, like automation through point and click. And then you move to further systems, maybe and new, like integration, particularly when there's endpoints. Those also could be in retail, e-commerce, logistics. All those are fairly advanced technologically, where you can do the second part of automation.
We have a
Perfect. Thank you for that. Yeah, I believe you were going to add something to the conversation, Josie.
Oh, earlier, yeah, I was going to say the trends.
I sensed it that you were going to say something.
I was going to let it go. They're going to be like, esta mujer siempre se mete de metiche. So yeah, I was going to say, as far as the trends are concerned, hyper automation and intent and being able to predict what they do. So obviously this is an emerging technology. So you just get set up with what needs to get done, and then something new is happening. So the trends is kind of like the nirvana of where you want to get to. So first step is set up your dumb robot and then make it smarter. And then eventually that robot will predict. And that's kind of the trend for this year. It's like trying to be able to really have hyper automation and being able to predict what your user is going to want. But again, that's the nirvana, and that's what we want to try to achieve.
Right. Thank you for sharing, Josie. And Karim, thank you very much for answering the question, for sharing your expertise. I want to actually go back to something that you mentioned, Josie. You said something about intents in everything that you said. You said something about intents, and yeah, that kind of raised the question for me and possibly for people listening that joined. Can you explain us a little bit about that as well?
Intent is just a fancy word for what you think the user wants you to do. And you have to build that into the bot. So for example, Karim talked about front office work, and he talked about chat bots, and he said what that would look like is somebody going to like a chat on their portal and saying, hey, hi, Minzy, which is their AI, I want to process a payment. And they need to know that that they want to process a payment, the intent of processing the payment, and then spin up the activity that needs to happen when that comes in. So intent, again, is just a fancy way of the bot trying to figure out what it is that the user wants you to get done.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thanks
And
for
just to
clearing
geek
that
up on geek out
He's
on
going
that
to
a
add
little
to
bit.
that.
Uh,
Go ahead.
exactly how Josie said. It's on the front end. It's all about intent accuracy, right? And it really depends on a couple of things. The question being asked. You can ask the same question different way. Like payment question is that I can ask what's my payment, or I can ask how much do I owe you. But either way, the AI needs to understand that with a high level of accuracy that you mean to ask about your balance. But also it needs to understand the context. If I'm asking you about if I am in if I'm in insurance, for example, and I'm trying to pay for my insurance policy, and during the customer service, I added let's say during the customer service, I say, well, how much I owe you, then chances are I mean that how much is my bill. If I'm in the middle of a processing an endorsement or adding a vehicle, and if I say, well, how much do I owe you? Well, chances are I need to know how much that change will cost me, right? So that's context intent that the AI has to be able to understand and develop high accuracy on that.
Oh my God, I don't know how we're doing on time, but you mentioned, what industries. I'm going to piggyback on what you piggybacked. You talked about what industries, and it obviously it's cross industry. Any industry can really benefit from it. But how do you how do you actually implement it? We have a saying in my household, del dicho al hecho hay muchos trechos, and that basically means in English, there's the idea and then there's the actual implementation of the idea, right? And when is it a good idea for you to implement? When does it make sense? And I go back to finances, ROI. When does it make sense as far as ROI is concerned? So how many conversations will the chatbot be taking? How many activities will the chatbot be taking? If like for back office, if they're going to be if one human can process 175 emails a day, and the cost of that is, I don't know, let's say $2,000 a month, then it doesn't really make sense to replace that human until you've got enough of those requests coming in. So it's, to answer your question, it's cross industry. The biggest challenge is figuring out when the ROI is there, cost versus benefit.
Right. Oh, thank you for sharing, Josie. And thank you all of you guys for sharing your expertise and your knowledge in the BPO industry and RPA. Now, I didn't mention it before, but we're going to have a Q&A session. So I invite everybody that joined the conversation previously, or the people that is currently live on Facebook or YouTube, please send us your questions and we'll be happily here to answer any of your concerns, questions, or if anything that you guys want. So we're here to help.
Jay, my eyes started twitching, like, oh my God, this is really the hot seat.
Yeah, well, the questions will be for everyone. I'm not going to pick exclusively in someone, Josie, but you're going to be the first one to answer a question. I guarantee
Be
you
like,
that.
Armando, go ahead.
Yes. So, all right, I have a question here, and you know what? I'm going to pick on you, Armando, since you've been a little quiet lately. So, this one's for you. So, what's the first step to take in a company to implement RPA services? Can you share us a little bit of that? That's the question they asked us here.
Sure. It's simple. You just have to send an email to hello@advancio.com, and we will happy to provide you with the guidance that you need to start up with Advancio BPO RPA services.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Armando. Check. I believe we have another question here. I'm going to pick this one.
Sorry, I'm going to piggyback on that one.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a huge challenge, right? As I said, the first thing you got to take a look at is, well, is there a need here? Do I have enough activities that are being processed that I can go ahead and automate? And then once you answer that, and the answer is yes, I can benefit from this solution. Yeah, as Armando mentioned, just send us an email, because it's so complicated and there's so many ways to attack it. I mean, we could spend all day just on a separate webinar of like, this is what you want to do first, and these are the indicators, and these are the characteristics. But we're the experts in it, so just give us a call. It's free, so and we'll take over. We'll ask you a couple of indicators and questions, and then we'll try to kind of reverse engineer it and tell you, hey, you know what, it makes sense for you, and this is what it would look like, or it doesn't make sense for you, and this is about the time that you might want to implement it in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Josie.
And just
that.
one more rule of thumb: you can't
Yeah.
automate what you can't document. If you have a process that you cannot get to document and put it on paper repetitively, chances are you're not going to be able to automate that. So just remember, it starts with documentation.
But
Body.
we have a solution for that. So for individuals that don't have documentation, we usually put a small team together, and that small team documents it for you, learns everything that needs to be learned, and then does all the hard work for you. So yes, documentation is extremely handful, but we got an answer for that.
Yeah.
Perfect. See, I like this. I like this integrate in this conversation here.
You should put us, instead of a question and answer, you should put us like in a, what do you call it when you debate? Then
debate?
then the thoughts are going to start flying and
yeah. So I'm just going to throw the question, and whoever you want to catch it catches it, right? No, well, Karim, you were the last one to speak, so I'm going to have the next question for you. All right. Let's see what they put here. What are the typical challenges businesses face when they implement RPA process?
There's different challenges. It starts with, we're talking about documentation. A lot of times clients don't have a documented process. So like Josie said, we have to sit and kind of help gather the requirements and help put the process in place and document the process that needs to be automated. Number two is time. A lot of business owners are very busy, and investing the time to kind of give the proper requirements and think really about what part of the process can be and should be automated. That's also one other challenge that we find during the implementation of the RPA process.
Yeah, another challenge I've seen in the past is that it gets overscoped. So they really want to build the biggest, baddest machine ever, and they're not delivering small chunks of product, and it's not going live, and they're not seeing that value come in. So then that project from really drags on for a year or 2 years. So even the larger companies that have the manpower to document and to scope and to do all of that, the scope just gets away from them, and the business individual or the business people don't see that return, and then eventually they kill the project because it took them too long to implement. They didn't see any value in it. So kind of keeping that scope manageable and deliverables nice and consistent, where we're able to generate value in a relatively short period of time.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I have another question here, and I'm going to give this one to you, Josie. Is this team virtual or in-house?
So yeah, for some individuals, so there's two ways of engaging usually. So the first one is, hey, we have a lot of volume, a lot of activities, a lot of calls coming in. We want you to build out our entire automation strategy. And we go ahead and we scope it and we get it done. And then there's the smaller companies that already are contracting BPO services. They already have virtual agents. They already have people automating, and they really want to grow into that automation. So we'll create a small group of a small control group of 3 to 4 representatives doing the actual system or the actual day-to-day work. And then that day-to-day work gets documented, and then they start building on the documentation. And before you document the process, another thing that this team does is it creates efficiency of the process. So you really don't want to automate a process that is extremely inefficient because then you're automating 20 steps when you really only need 5 and you're just automating a bad process, right? So the ability to have a small team to take a look at that process, understand the process, learn the process, create efficiency around the process, document the process, and then ultimately automate the process allows us to kind of do that switcheroo. I don't know if that answered the question or not.
Pretty much did. Thank you for sharing, Josie. We still have a couple of questions here from the audience. I'm gonna pick this one on you, Karim, since you are, in automation. So this one says, how long does it take to automate a process via RPA?
It depends on the process. I mean, we build simple processes in a day. And there's more complex processes that require months. It really depends on the process that we're trying to automate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Karim.
I'm sorry, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm just going back, and you asked if the team was virtual
Yeah.
or non-virtual. I didn't answer the question. I just told you guys about the team and the team structure. So if it's really complex and we're doing an entire automation strategy from beginning to end, then we can have in-house people come in and document it and take that information and then take it back and become a virtual team where we just automate for you in a remote fashion and give you status updates. And then if we're going to have the team, then that team is remote. If need be, we can have them come in and be in office for a couple of weeks for them to learn the process and then go back and be remote. It hasn't been a problem as of now for us to kind of have the flexibility for us to be in office, but then also go back and be able to do remote because everybody's working remote nowadays. So it's kind of expected. They're like, when are you going to go back to your office so that I can go back to working from home? So it's a hybrid depending on the needs of the customer.
Right. Thank you, Josie, for sharing and retaking the question. I believe
I
we
was
have
like,
a
wait a
hand.
minute. I don't think I answered it.
It just got back. That wasn't the question. Yeah. Yeah, I believe we have somebody here that's raising their hand and want to ask a question. Carolina, take it away. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Very interesting so far. I wanted to clarify something because I understand there are several tools for doing this RPA, like Rocket Bot, the Microsoft One, or UiPath. You help with the part of the tool or with the previous, process of the process of doing the different areas, as Karim mentioned, to understand the business process and to select when you can start. I have that doubt.
Yeah, that's a good question. We do both. Straightforward, or if we're just talking technology wise, if our clients already know what needs to be done and it's a purely technical process, we come in, and as a software development company that we have a full software development life cycle that we follow to go from requirement to implementation. In addition to that, if we take the BPO operations that Armando is part of, what we do with our clients is that we start as a traditional BPO operation where we'll sit with our clients and they will train our agents as if they were their new employees to handle their business operations. And during that process, we document what our teams are doing, and we actually find the points of automation that we can detect during that process. From that point on, we bring our technical team and we start the automation process. So we actually do both. I hope that answers your question, Carolina.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Just to piggyback on that, Carolina, for full life cycle implementation, if you've already identified certain tools that you would want to utilize, then we analyze those tools. And if if we feel that that's the best solution, we'll tell you. If we feel that it's not the best solution, then we'll also tell you, and we'll tell you why. Because a lot of the times customers come in and they say, okay, I really want you to implement this and I want you to utilize Power BI. And we look at the licensing and we say, hey, the licensing for this one is twice as much. Why don't you utilize this? And that's where our expertise comes in. So we definitely listen to what the customer needs and why it is that they're seeking that solution, but also we sprinkle in if we feel that maybe another platform would better serve the needs of the client.
Thank you, Josie.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for sharing. And thank you, Carolina, for your question. We have a couple more questions here on the chat. They are asking, is it possible to automate our administrative tasks instead of hiring BPO? Or what are the suggestions in this process? Who wants to answer that question?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to take a stab at it, Josie.
I can go back to the question if you guys want me to.
They've heard me enough. I would say, why choose? You should do both. I mean, one is an insurance policy for the future, and then one meets the needs right now, right? So, and if you can have both, where you're able to meet the needs of right now, because I just need people and I need people to work my stuff now. That's where BPO comes in. And then automation is kind of that insurance policy for the future. So if you can contract a vendor that will do both for you at the same time, without an additional cost, then why not, right? Why do you have to sacrifice and choose either or? But Karim, please go ahead. I don't know if you were
answered
gonna.
it very well, and it goes back to the same to Carolina's question. Is it just a purely technical project where we're just automating, or is it business outsourcing first, then technical outsourcing? And you can do both.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing, guys, and thank you for your question in the chat. We have another question. I think this one's specific. How does RPA affect the human resources department in a company, and what benefits will be gained? I'm going to pick on you, Karim. So we're going department specific.
How does it affect it? I'm thinking from both sides, right? From a technical side, how does it affect, and also from a workforce side, how does it affect? Now, obviously, from a workforce perspective, RPAs doesn't mean that we need to kind of let people go, because we're not replacing people. We're augmenting their abilities. It probably means maybe less stress on the recruitment department when you have the turnovers, or less stress on the HR managers when people call in sick last minute, and things of that nature. Now, as far as the technical side, I mean, automating some of the human resource functions can have a huge impact. Just things on the recruitment side, for example. Just talking out of internally here at Advancio, we've automated numerous very heavy touch point interactions just on the recruitment side. When you're dealing with thousands of candidates coming in on a monthly basis, you really have to be picky about. You have to be good and to the point into giving those candidates a superior customer experience and getting back to them on time. So there's both benefits on the business side and on the tech side to actually automating HR.
Yeah, when you said that, it took me back to my HR days, and I said, what would it have been like if I had the ability to automate some of my processes when I was in HR, and what does that do to my workforce? So as Karim mentioned, on the recruitment side, it's so nice to find individuals that fit the seat, and it's kind of like, oh, I found a gem. I found a gem, and I'm going to present this to the hiring manager. So if automation or AI would enable me to sift through thousands of candidates and give me like the creme of the creme, the top 100s that are more likely to be hired, it would really reduce my workload and increase my success rate. So, and everybody likes, to find those candidates that are absolutely phenomenal, right? That are going to really take it home, and that you're going to be able to offer them this position, right? Because essentially you want to hire them, and you want to, because you believe in the company that you're hiring them for. On the HR side, another thing was, when you're hiring, they always ask about the benefits, and they always ask about the job and the project. Um, the ability to tell them, hey, you're going to be working with a robot, and all of the mundane tasks are automated, I think would be a selling point. So it would be easier for me to sell the position and for me to sell the project, and really know that this person is going to be coming in to do something that they love. So that would be another plus. And then, as Kareem mentioned, it would allow my individuals maybe to take some time off. So the robot can come in and can really help with some of the heavy lifting of like the repetitive tasks. So they would be more available to take time off and experience less burnout. So I don't know, I found all of these things, it would affect positively on the HR side. On the negative side, which is a lot of people tend to just think negative, and they say, oh, well, there's going to be massive layoffs. I think we already established that there won't be layoffs, because there's already tons of positions that can't be filled. So it's not like you're laying people off. You really want to hire more people, right? So it's about reskilling, cross-skilling, and upskilling the workforce. And so instead of me working on people that are unhappy and burnout, I'm able to really create career growth plans and create development programs for them, to train them and have them grow in their career. So even on the negative side, I think of it on the positive side.
Perfect. I think that answers pretty well the question that was in the chat. Thank you guys for answering it. I have another question, and on this one, I'm gonna pick on you, Armando, because you've been pretty quiet. So I'm gonna give you this question right here. So this one's very specific. It says, after a BPO process, when is it recommended to implement an RPA process? When do you think it's a good time to start implementing?
Whereas, as Karim mentioned, we need to have a full, comprehensive understanding on the process that we will work with. So basically, once the outsourced process is up and running with a full comprehensive assessment, basically we will be ready to start with RPA development. And start smoothly with that. So basically, we need to really understand what the process requirements are, and then we can just start working with the RPA development.
Thank you. Anything to add, guys, to following up the question?
No, Armando said it just fine.
Excellent.
I'm speechless.
Excellent.
He doesn't talk a lot, but when he talks, it's
well, he's the
powerful.
voice of expertise in BPO, so he knows a couple of things.
I know, right? He's the one doing it on a day-to-day.
Right. I have a last question here, and this one I'm gonna trigger it to you, Karim. So this one says, what is the minimum to invest in a BPO service per month regarding prices?
So I mean, BPO traditionally, it's not done one-off, right? It's you outsource the process because you need people to do it. So it's usually minimum you're looking at a team of 5 to be able to kind of have a process with enough volume that's worth automating. Pricing in BPO in general really depends by region. It goes from low-level BPO simple data entry on a human virtual agent from $1,800 a month, and it can go all the way up to $3,500. Depends on location, the skills, supervisor or not, front facing, back facing. But then you kind of look compared to onshore. I mean, if I'm talking mainly offshore, right? Onshore in the US, you're looking anywhere depends on what state you're in, right? For California, obviously, you're looking at maybe $20, $30 an hour in-house. So you compare that to the 1800, there's a major difference. Once you start implementing RPAs, now you're looking at usually the pricing is, if you're looking at, it's basically a 1-to-1, more or less, right? It takes about one RPA. This for the price of a local CSR, you can get a robot doing that task. However, the volume is more, right? So the volume is more like 3-to-1. Same thing with conversational AI. When you're looking at the cost of a conversational AI, you're looking at about 3-to-1, right? So the cost of a 3 CSR, it's one robot that can understand and have a conversation with your client. On the other hand, the return is about 16-17-to-1. So one robot can take the volume in chats and calls of about 17 people. So just to give people a little idea of what it costs, really linked to volume. BPO and RPA and AI really require large number of volumes, which one of the things that Josie mentioned earlier, is it really worth automating? If you have 100 emails, then maybe it's probably just have that one person doing the 100 emails a week or whatever it is. But if you have 100,000 a week and you have a team of 50 people handling it, then yes, you should definitely consider BPO, especially RPA and AI-driven BPO, such as our service that combines both, right? We're doing the work right away with people, but we're taking the time to learn the process and automate it properly through robots.
Perfect. Thanks, Karim, for sharing that information. Now, I believe that was the last question for the QA session. Anything else you guys want to add? Just to finish this webinar?
No, I think that was a really nice last question. Like, when does it make sense and when does it not make sense? I mentioned that having that ROI is really important for businesses of all sizes, right? And Karim explained it really nicely where, it's really a minimum of at least 5 reps because they've got enough volume to really constitute or warrant automation. But there is no max, right? It's endless. If you have 100 CSRs, 50 CSRs, anything above that, it really makes sense because the robot can really not only serve, it's not 1-to-1, it's really 1-to-16 or 1-to-15.
Perfect. Thank you, Josie. And once again, thank you guys. Thank you, Josie, Karim, Armando, for sharing your expertise here today. I believe it was very insightful. All the material you guys shared was great. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be very helpful for people that joined today's webinar. And well, guess what? I have something prepared for everybody that registered into this conversation, this talk today. So we have a 14-day trial for you guys to test Advancio's BPO. So for everybody that joined and registered in our website and in our links, I will be contacting you in a couple of hours just to follow up and book a call with you guys and discuss further about your 14-day trial. And for people that haven't registered, I advise you to go into our website and click in our form BPO so you can register and also be eligible to get the 14-day trial. Just once again, it's advancio.com. And well, I believe we have come to the end of our talk today. Man, it really went fast. Don't you guys think? A lot of questions, a lot of insightful questions here, and a lot of knowledge that these guys shared today. Well, I guess there's only one last thing.
Just wanted to say, I just want to say I had a lot of fun, and I hope you invite me again, even though I talked a lot and interrupted you a lot. Maybe I should, if you have a permanent spot as a co-host, I'll be more than happy to attend.
I'll think about it. I'll throw it out to the HR department. Say I'm looking for a co-host sometime this year. Not right now, though. I'm good by myself. But thank you. All right, guys. Well, that'll be it for the webinar today. I'll invite you guys to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Remember, if you know someone that could be benefited from this talk or any other that we have, invite them to go into our YouTube channel, like our page, follow-ups, and they're going to receive a lot of these insightful talks. So I'm really thankful for everybody that joined today's call. I'm thankful for our speakers today. Damn, you guys are great, honestly. You guys know a lot of things here. And that's what's left for me to say is just everybody have a great rest of the quarter. I wish you guys complete your goals and everything you have expected and have an amazing rest of the year. So thank you, everybody.
All right.
Amazing.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.